The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to our TPG Town Hall about FileBound Connect, a new way to manage your workflow. This is our fourth and final Town Hall for 2020. Our previous three, which we started in October, have all been recorded and are available on our YouTube channel as well as links on our website. And I will be sending out a link to this recording when we finish so that you have that to either rewatch or share with a colleague. And I also want to remind you that we do have an upcoming webinar. It'll be in the beginning of 2021. It's going to be a detailed webinar on vendor onboarding and some of the things that we're doing there. So I think you'll find that interesting. My name is Jack Arnston. I'm a principal at the Priton Group, and joining me this morning is Bill Prahota, my business partner, as well as J.D. Arnston, a senior systems engineer with the Priton Group. For our agenda today, we're going to begin by talking about how FileBound came to create FileBound Connect. What were the comments and the things that they heard from people that drove them to this particular module within the software? We will then get under the hood a little bit and show you how you configure Connect and the individual modules within it and how that all works. And then we're going to show you from a user perspective what the software looks like, how it works. And at the end, we're going to answer any questions that you might have. Now, as a town hall, and to make this successful, we need to have some participation by all of you. And so we ask that you ask any questions you might have, and there's a couple of ways that you can do that. The first is you can type a question into the GoToWebinar panel and hit the send button. I'll be monitoring those, and when we get to the end, I will ask those of Bill and JD. You also have the option to ask a question by holding up your hand, and you'll notice on that GoToWebinar interface there is a hand with a red down arrow. If you click on that, it will change to a green arrow pointing up, and that will let me know that you have a question you'd like to ask. And when we get to that point, I will unmute you, introduce you, and ask you to ask your question. And as I mentioned before, we will be recording this session and make it available to you. I'll have an email going out by the end of the week, so you have that. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to hand it off to Bill. Bill?
Thanks, Jack. So Jack mentioned, one of the things you want to do is kind of cover real quickly some of the stuff that FileBound was hearing that then helped them to understand the value of developing a product like Connect and the things that the customers needed to see and were asking about. So as we start taking a look at this, one of the first comments were they wanted to have a way where they could see and work with the documents without actually having to be in FileBound. They didn't really want to, if they could avoid it, having to log into FileBound every single time they use the system. So FileBound took some of that to heart. They also said that they needed a way to work with their core systems and be able to stay in their core systems and do the primary work that they do every day in their core software, and yet still have quick, easy access to FileBound to help substantiate some of the work they were doing in their core systems. And then thirdly, they said that our users are familiar and comfortable with the Windows File Explorer. That's something that they use every day. So they were saying, hey, can we see that in FileBound, and can we view our documents in folder structures like that as well? So FileBound did take all these things to heart and develop the Connect product to address that and some additional needs as well. So the big benefit is that now with Connect, users are able to spend more time in their core systems. They have the ability to search, create, add, edit, and work in FileBound without actually having to be in FileBound. So you'll see that when I show it to you, and as JD goes through the configuration. They also, with that interface, made it easy to scan and import or drag and drop documents into FileBound and into folders that are already out there, or create new folders on the fly. They can export large amounts of data for analysis in Excel. That's a really nice benefit. You'll see that today as well. That exceeds some of the current limitations in FileBound as far as how many documents you see on a screen and how many documents in total you can export at one time. And then It also leverages the user's comfort with Windows File Explorer. That was something that FileBound put into the solution with FileBound Drive. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to JD. He's going to take you through just some of the base install and configuration options with the 3 main elements we're going to show you today, just to kind of give you an idea of what it takes to set it up and how quickly and easily you can get up and running on it. So JD, if you'd like to take over.
Thanks, Bill. So we'll start by going through just the installation and configuration of all of this. And there are essentially 3 main components to this setup. The first of those 3 is installing and configuring Connect itself. It's a client-side application, and we can either install that, individually on workstations, or there's an MSI that can be given to your IT team, and that installer can be rolled out through them to a number of users as well. Once we have Connect configured, next step would be configuring an integration with the core system. So in our example today, we'll be looking at Skyward, but we can usually connect to just about any web-based system. And in today's example, we'll be focusing on HR, but we can integrate with a number of different solutions, whether it's HR, AP, or something else entirely. And then the last part of the 3 components is configuring FileBound Drive. So in our example today, we'll be looking at HR and AP, and it essentially allows you to browse through those projects through the Windows File Explorer, and it honors that same sort of Windows folder structure as well. So it gives some familiarity there to users. So let's go ahead and start by looking at the initial configuration in Connect. Here's the initial login screen for Connect. And before we actually sign in, we need to do some configuration up front for Connect. So in here, there's 2 main things that we usually configure. The first is the URL, where we would just put in your company's FileBound site URL and then test it out. And once that is good, then we also usually check the box for enabling auto login. This just allows Connect to auto log you into the application after you do your initial sign in. So once that's all good, we go ahead and just hit OK. And then you just enter in your FileBound username and password, and you sign in, and you're good there. So once you actually get into FileBound, there are some additional settings options that we usually configure. And so that would be under Settings and then Options. In here, we usually check the first 4 options under the General tab. So that would be always displaying Connect on top of other applications, hiding Connect if you minimize the application, auto starting the application when Windows logs in, and that dovetails nicely with that auto sign in, because then it just auto starts the application, auto signs you in, and you're good to go. And then also showing all defined separators and dividers, which just allows for a better, easier drag and drop experience when you're drag and dropping documents into the system. Under the alerts section, we also usually check display new assignment notification and display document found notification. Those just allow for a kind of better overall experience with Connect by leveraging Windows notifications that pop up on the lower right of the screen. So with that all done, we then move forward to connecting up with an integration in Connect. So to do that, once you're signed into Connect, we start by opening up the integrations option. And from there, we can create a variety of integrations in Connect, and those can span different FileBound projects, such as personnel files and vendor invoices like you see here. And we can also integrate multiple web pages to a single project as well. So you can see here we have two web pages that Connect can detect for personnel files, and 2 that it can detect for vendor invoices as well. So we'll take a quick look at the integration that we've got set up for Skyward here. And in this case, we're going to be looking at one of our personnel files integrations. So we start by entering in the URL or the name of the page that we want to integrate with. And we can also use it's ... to replace dynamic data in that window if that window's name can change slightly. So it just helps maintain that connection to that page. Connect will then search that page for HTML fields for us to map to FileBound index fields. And so you can see there at the bottom, we've got our index fields mapped to the HTML fields that were found on the page. And then it just returns back the values that are in those HTML fields. And one more thing that I should mention is that you can see script name there. We can also leverage PowerShell scripting to edit data that is found in those fields. So if you've got a field that has, you know, almost the value that you're looking for, but it's consistent in that it's not quite there and it just needs to be edited, we can use a PowerShell script and edit that data down as well. So once all this is done, we just then hit OK and save our integration. And the last step there is to just make sure that the integration mode is toggled to on. If it's off, it's obviously not going to work. So we set that to on, and then you should be all set, and it should be integrated with your third-party software. And one thing I should mention about that as well is that we only need to set up an integration once on one workstation. Integrations are tied to your FileBound site, not to your installation of Connect. And what that means is that once we set up that initial integration, anybody else that logs into Connect on a different workstation, as long as their security settings allow for it, they'll be able to use and see that integration as well. So that takes care of the integration side of the fence in Connect. And we'll move over to the last configuration that we have to do here, which is FileBound Drive. So to enable FileBound Drive in Connect, we actually need to go to the actual FileBound application in the web browser first. And we go to our main options, and then we select the Drive tab in there. And Drive can either be enabled for all projects, or you can select certain projects that you want to enable for it. So in our case, for this demo, we've got our AP and our HR projects enabled for FileBound Drive. And once this is done, a FileBound Drive icon will be added to the list of available drives in the Windows File Explorer. So it's functionally similar to something like Google File Stream or Microsoft OneDrive, if you're familiar with either of those applications. And from there as well, we can create a shortcut to FileBound Drive and drop it onto the desktop, which just allows for quicker access to that drive as well and to those documents in there. And so once you've got all of that set up, when you open FileBound Drive in the File Explorer, you'll see that it's separated by FileBound project. And this also allows for, it also follows user security settings in FileBound and restricts users based on their FileBound security settings. So you can still restrict people to only see certain documents or certain projects in FileBound Drive as they do in regular FileBound. So that covers the initial configuration for those three pieces. And with that said, I'm going to hand it back over to Bill, and he's going to walk through all of this in action.
Thanks, JD. All right, so let's take a look at the solution. We're going to cover those three areas that JD just showed and explained how to configure and set up. So to begin with, we're just going to go into a basic Connect overview. We're going to just show Connect. We'll hit the integrations and the drive a little bit later. But when you log into Connect, as JD said, you can set up to auto log in so that once you boot your PC or start your PC and log in, it will automatically launch Connect for you. Now, if that doesn't get set up, then you just simply add your username and your password and click sign in, and you're in. Now, once you're at the user interface, you'll spend most of your time right here in this user interface, with the exception of when you go to view documents. Now, for example, My business partner, Jack, is on the call today as well, uses FileBound Connect like this all the time, all day long. He loves it. He uses it for the vast majority of his interactions with FileBound because of the nature of the type of work that he does. So I'm going to show you real quick how to do an easy retrieval in Connect. So I'm at the Accounts Payable Invoices project, and I can enter in the invoice number. So I know the invoice number, BWC 9739. And when I click Find, it goes out and finds the record for me and then provides indication that the document is there. If I double click on my document, it'll launch my web viewer for me and load in the invoice. As you can see, there's my invoice data along with the invoice image. So very quick, very easy way to get the documents retrieved from FileBound, but not actually being in FileBound, which was one of the tenets for why and how FileBound developed and created this solution. So very simple, very easy. But in addition to that, we also have ways of getting documents into Connect using the Connect, or into FileBound using the Connect user interface. Now, there's three main ways to do that: drag and drop, scanning, and file import. For the context of today's demo, it was really difficult to show the drag and drop, so I'm going to show you scanning and file import. For drag and drop, it's just this simple. If you go out to your folder or your desktop or any place you have a document you want to bring into the folder, you simply go out there, you click on that document, you drag it over the folder, and you let go. And it will drive that document directly into the FileBound system and store it away for you. Really simple, really easy. Scanning and import is just about that easy. For scanning, when we open up Connect, you'll see that there's a menu bar at the top, and that lists scan, import, search, index and queue, assignments, and recycle bin. Depending on my security, I may or may not see certain elements, and later on you're going to see as I log in as the accounts payable clerk for the workflow side of the house, the recycle bin and the index and queue will be gone because I'm not secured for it as the AP clerk. So you'll see how this can, as JD mentioned earlier, honor the security structure set up in FileBound. But in this case, I'm going to hit the scan button. And when I do, it launches the scan dialog box, which drives the scanner. And when I hit the scan button, it'll actually drive the scanner, collect the images from the documents, and then present the scanned documents window for me here, showing the various TIFF images that I've captured. I will identify what their divider is, in this case, supporting documents. And then I can determine if I wish to keep these two documents, which may be page 1 and page 2 of an invoice, as a single multiple page PDF. So it'll combine the TIFFs. And then I can apply the same name, separator, and or divider to all the documents that I may have captured to help speed up that selection process. When I'm done, I hit the Save button, and now that document is in FileBound. Similarly, with the importing, I can click the Import button, and it'll launch for me the Browse dialog box that I can browse anywhere on my PC or anywhere on the network that I'm secured for. And I can grab whatever documents I need. In this case, I'm going to grab the Cities Digital PDF. I'm going to click Open, and it's going to give me a similar window showing me that I've got my PDF. It's identified as a divider. I can decide again, since it is a PDF, to render it back to TIFF images if I so choose to do so, or I can click on Delete the Original Documents, which is really a nice feature, especially when you're dealing with a folder where people, either yourself or other people, are loading documents in all throughout the day, and your responsibility is to pull these documents, put them into FileBound. The nice thing about Delete Original Documents is that once you put it up in the FileBound, it'll delete it from that folder. So that folder is being pruned as you're doing your work, so you don't risk putting the same document twice into the folder. When I'm done, I can hit Save, and now I've just imported that document into FileBound. So drag and drop, scan, and import, all very, very fast and functional ways of getting documents into FileBound through Connect. As we move forward to searching, we have the ability to do an advanced search. Now, you saw me do the search below with the invoice number, which is index level search. If I click the advanced search button, I can now have more at my fingertips for doing searches and rendering back the data I'm looking for. In this case, I can choose my projects, which dividers I want to work with. I can also search based on my index values, date values for any of the date fields that I have in the project. I can also search by by document name or by the annotation text, or any combination thereof to help refine my search and limit my results. So when I'm done, I hit the search button, and when I do, I get my results list right down below. Now, the nice thing about the results list is I also have further capabilities, such as filtering based on an index value that's currently in the system, and I can pick a field and then what it contains, and I can filter on that. Once I have my list refined down to the documents I want, then I can either view or export them. If I view them, it's going to launch it into the FileBound web viewer for me. If I choose export, it's going to export that out to a CSV Excel file for me to then grab that data and work with it in something like Excel. Now, this export is really nice because it sort of breaks that barrier that FileBound has of 25 documents per page, 50 pages per export, which is about 1,250 some odd or so documents. But the nice thing about this method of export is I can have tens of thousands of records, and I can export those records out to a CSV Excel file that would allow me then to do further additional analyses on the data. Now, as we progress along, I said earlier that I would be logging in as the AP clerk. And in this case, I'm logged in as the AP clerk, and you see my menu is reduced, but I also have my assignments page that I can work with. Now, this is a really nice feature in that unless I'm in FileBound or unless I'm getting alerts throughout the day via emails, which I may not based on my workflow configuration, I would have to be in FileBound to know what assignments I have. Well, with FileBound Connect, I have this available to me right here, and it will tell me that I have 4 assignments. And as JD showed earlier with the configuration, we can also set it up so that it will send me an alert when another item comes in to my assignment. So if I went from 4 to 5, it would send me an alert telling me that I've had another workflow assignment added. Now, if I click on this button, it's actually going to open up FileBound and take me directly to my assignments and to my workflow. So I'm in the assignments page here, and here are all my workflow items, which if any of you use workflow on a regular basis, you're used to the screen, but it drives you directly there. And now I can open up and work on all my items as I need to from a workflow perspective. So I still, with FileBound Connect, have the ability to stay in touch with all of my workflow assignments. Very nice, very powerful and easy to work with. Connect with Excel and Word. When you install Connect, it gives us the ability to install, automatically now installs plugins into Word and Excel. In this case, I'm going to show you Excel today. What's really nice about this integration with Excel is that it provides for us, when you click on the workflow, when you click on the FileBound icon, I'm going to get a number of items available for me to use as a part of that integration. If I click on the Save Workflow or Workbook to FileBound, it's going to allow me to upload this Excel spreadsheet or workbook into FileBound as a document, just like any document in the system. It'll present me with the indexing for the project and the index fields to store it into FileBound, either a new file or an existing file. If I have import data to FileBound, it allows me to bring in raw import data and put it into FileBound to create files or update data in FileBound. Now, a really good example of this is if I have new vendors that I've received in, and I have their data in an Excel spreadsheet, and I want to get those files created in FileBound quickly and easily. I can do that right here with the import data into FileBound. I also have the ability to search. And when I do searches, the results list now is presented to me in an Excel spreadsheet, so I can do analyses on it. And you're going to see that in the report in just a second. I can run reports, which again render data back to me in Excel format. And then I can configure my plugin in Excel to identify what my URL is, so I know that I'm hitting my site, and what the date format needs to look like, so that there's a match between the date formats in Excel and in FileBound. But if I were to give you an example, I'll show you a report. When I click on the report button, it will actually, on the right-hand side, launch my report screen on the right side of my spreadsheet and allow me to choose between 4 reports. In this case, I'm going to choose the workflow status report. And when I do that, it's going to give me a screen with the parameters that are the same parameters as if I was running this report in FileBound. So I'm going to have the same ability to run this report, but now I'm running it from Excel and getting my data back immediately rather than working through FileBound. Now, when I choose a report and fill my parameters, in this case, I'm going to look in AP invoices under the invoice approval workflow for the dates of the beginning of this year until today. The results list then gets loaded directly into my Excel spreadsheet, and I can then take that data and run with it, whether I want to analyze it, run pivot tables, sort it, and use it for other purposes. So it's a very, very powerful tool, especially if you spend any time in Excel. And now let's talk about Connect integration. So this is the second element that JD was talking about. For today, we're actually going to show an integration with a system called Skyward. It's a school ERP system, basically school management system. And Oconomowoc Area School District was kind enough to work with us to provide us this screen and to show you what the integration looks like. So here I am in the employee file. I'm on the name screen, and as you can see, I have the employee name key, which is our value that we're going to use to help us identify if we have documents in FileBound that go with this file in our core system. If there is, and as I move into this file, I will receive a little bubble, we call it, in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Now, this bubble will tell us, one, that we have documents available in FileBound that coincide with this file, but also identifies the number of documents. And here we have 34 documents. If I click on this bubble, it will actually bring the FileBound Connect screen forward for me to view. I can search at this point and peruse the various separators and dividers in that file. In this case, for today's example, I found the ethnicity document, and I want to take a look at that. So if I simply double click on that ethnicity document, it's going to open up my web viewer for me in FileBound and present the document. And there I have my ethnicity form, and I was able to get to it very quickly and easily from my core system through the integration. So there's just so many handy features that are available within FileBound Connect with the integration. If, for example, I didn't have a file for that individual when I clicked on the button to do the search, it would tell me there is no file available, and I could create a file directly from the data in the core system, and it would create an empty file folder for me, and at that point I can pull documents in to start populating that file. So not only is it easy to search, it's also easy to add documents to the file at the same time. So extremely powerful integration. And as JD said, we typically can find that most web-based applications are something that we can integrate with, and we work with FileBound to try to expand that list every day. So let's move on now to Connect and FileBound Drive. And FileBound Drive is that third element that he showed that's going to allow us to use the Windows File Explorer to look at documents in a little bit different context than we have in FileBound or even in FileBound Connect. So with FileBound Drive, you'll recognize this screen from JD when he showed the setup. We have the FileBound Drive as a drive on our system. And then it presents to us all of the projects that we're secured for as a user. So if I wasn't, for example, secured for human resources files, I wouldn't see them, even though they are opened up for FileBound Drive in general. based on honoring my security restrictions, I would not be able to see HR. I'd only be able to see AP. Now, I'm going to take you through a very simple drill down exercise here where I'm going to pick the HR employees project, and I'll get my list of HR employees in my folder structure here. I'll pick Jack's record, and I'll drill into Jack's record, and I'll see all of the separators. So that's our first level. And then I'll choose my employment document separator. And as you'll see, it's drilling me now down into my employee document separator. And then there are all of the dividers. So I may want to pull forward the computer usage agreement. So when I do, there's my PDF, and I can open it. Or I can right-hand mouse click on it, and I'll actually get a menu of items that are features that are available to me in FileBound, for example, that lets me deal with this specific document. So I can see the file details. I can look at the document information. I can see the document notes, which is typically on the right-hand side of the viewer. I can rename my document if I'm secured to do so. Same thing with copy or cutting and deleting or exporting. So it gives me right-hand mouse click capabilities to some of those features. So if I were to simply want to retrieve this document, I can double click on my PDF document, and it will load my viewer for me and present the document for me to review and to look at. Now, in addition to that simple process of drilling down to the documents by clicking on the various levels, I can also do a search, which will help to drive me a little bit faster and more efficiently to the document that I'm looking for. So if I was on the AP invoices and I right-hand mouse click on the invoices project, I have the ability to either create a new file for an invoice or a new folder, or I can do a search and find folders. So that's what I'm going to do. Click on find folders, and then it'll present me with my UI with the indexes that are available for AP invoices. If I type in my vendor name, CDW, it will then render back to me a list of all of my CDW invoices. And in this case, the CDW direct is the company name and the invoice number is next to it. I'm going to grab invoice number 6250, and I'm going to open it. And there's my PDF. And then when I launch my PDF, it'll simply present it to me in the viewer like you saw earlier. There's my invoice, and I was able to get to it much quicker and easier. So it just helps to accelerate that process by using some of those right-hand mouse click features based on being at the folder or at the document level. Adding files is just about as easy. If I am at my AP invoices again, for example, and this time I did it on restricted search, so I've got all of my invoices. And again, if I choose my 6250 invoice and I right-hand mouse click at that invoice, I can add a document to it. So when I right-hand mouse click and then click Add Document, it'll present me with a screen that says, hey, what's your divider? And this time I'm going to select Supporting Documents instead of Invoice. And when I do, it brings me to my browse window, and I can search and find the document that I want. In this case, I'm going to bring in my purchase order that might be associated with my invoice. When I do, that's going to add it to the Supporting Documents divider in my folder. And when I click on my Supporting Documents, sure enough, there is my purchase order. And I can then double click. And as you've seen previously in the other two attempts, it simply would open up this document in the viewer for me, and I would have access to it. So with that said, Jack, I'm going to open up for any questions that might have come in. But like I said earlier, as you saw, FileBound Connect is extremely powerful, flexible, and easy to use. So any questions, Jack?
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, we're running a little bit long, so I apologize about that. But if you do have a question, you'd like to put it in that chat area, feel free to do that. We had a couple come in, Bill, that I'll have you answer quickly. The first is, are there any special workstation requirements that I need to be aware of before installing Connect?
No, there isn't. The only caveat to that would be that whatever file folders you might need to get to to pull documents into FileBound through Connect, you have to make sure that you can get to those folders on your PC. But from a specification standpoint, no. If you're able to run FileBound and you work with it on a day-to-day basis, you'll be fine with FileBound Connect and installing it.
Here's another. Will FileBound Connect work with any scanner?
It will, with, again, one caveat, and that is that it has to be a Twain or ISIS scanner. FileBound scan feature that I showed you looks for and opens and interfaces with Twain and ISIS drivers. So as long as your scanner supports Twain and ISIS, you're good to go.
I've one more here for you. When downloading data to Excel using Connect, does it affect the system's performance?
No, you should not really see any performance hit whatsoever. Granted, if you pull down 500,000 records, you may see the time it takes to open up that in Excel, but you're dealing primarily with data. We're not pulling images when we bring it into Excel, and so this is strictly a data load from FileBound into your Excel spreadsheet, and so it's very quick and very efficient.
All right, with that, we'll finish up here. We want to thank you for attending and remind you that our other webinars are now available on our YouTube site, as well as our website with links to the YouTube site. So feel free to access those that way. And I will also be sending out an email later this week with access as well. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Remind you to watch out for an invite coming up in the beginning of 2021, while we'll talk about vendor onboarding in more detail. So thank you very much. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you for attending. Have a great day.